In the first half of the 6th century AD, the Eastern Roman Empire, also known as the Byzantine Empire, was at the height of its power. Trade was thriving, grand churches were being built, and imperial authority extended across vast lands. It was the golden age of one of history's most enduring empires, and at the very center of this magnificent machine stood Emperor Justinian, one of the most powerful men to ever walk the earth. But behind the golden walls of Constantinople and beneath the polished marble of its halls, there was another story, a quieter one, yet no less impactful. It was the story of a woman who defied every expectation, shattered every barrier, and rewrote the rules of power in a world dominated by men. Her name was Theodora. Theodora was not born into power, nor privilege. She came into the world around the year 500 AD in the bustling capital city of Constantinople. Her father worked as a bear trainer for the Green faction in the city's hippodrome, a massive arena where sport, politics, and society collided in spectacular fashion. Her mother was a dancer and an actress. In that time, the stage was no place of honor. Actresses were seen as little more than public entertainment, sometimes glamorous, often scorned, and always considered beneath the noble class. When Theodora's father passed away, her family was left in desperate poverty. Her mother remarried, hoping for stability, but they found only hardship. Eventually, Theodora followed in her mother's footsteps and stepped into the world of performance. She danced, she acted, and over time she became known not just for her beauty, but for her captivating presence. Men of every rank were drawn to her, but society's admiration was laced with disdain. She was both desired and despised. According to historian Procopius, her performances became provocative and her lifestyle scandalous. Yet behind the stories and gossip lay a woman of remarkable intellect and resilience. Theodora's early life might have consumed her, as it did countless women who lived in the shadows of men. But Theodora was different. She traveled, first with a lover to North Africa, but when that relationship collapsed, she was abandoned in a foreign land. Alone and desperate, she began a slow and painful journey back to her home city. Along the way, she found something unexpected: faith. In the cities of Alexandria and Antioch, she met religious scholars and thinkers. There, she embraced monophysitism, the belief that Christ has one divine nature. It was a view considered heretical by many in the empire. But for Theodora, it wasn't just a belief, it was a turning point. She left her former life behind. She learned manners, speech, grace. She became a new woman. By the time she returned to Constantinople in 522, she was not the same person who had once danced in the hippodrome. She was dignified, disciplined, and determined. And that's when she met Justinian. Justinian, the ambitious nephew of the reigning emperor, was captivated by Theodora's presence. She wasn't a noble, but she was wise, confident, and unlike any woman he had ever met. He fell in love. But love was not enough, not in Byzantium. Roman law forbade government officials from marrying actresses. Religious leaders disapproved of her monophysite faith. The empress at the time, Euphemia, strongly opposed the union. Yet Justinian was determined. When Empress Euphemia died in 524, Justinian persuaded his uncle to overturn the law. In 525, he and Theodora were married in a lavish imperial ceremony. 3 years later, Emperor Justin passed away, and Justinian rose to the throne. At his side, as empress, not concubine, not mistress, stood Theodora. The girl who once performed for coins was now co-ruler of the most powerful empire on earth. Theodora took to her role with unmatched strength. She wore the royal purple robes with pride, received foreign dignitaries with calculated poise, and redefined what it meant to be an empress. She wasn't content with luxury. She was a policymaker, a strategist, and a champion for the vulnerable. She pushed for laws to protect women from exploitation and abuse. Rape and abduction were punishable by death. Forced prostitution became a serious crime. Women gained greater rights in divorce and inheritance. Honor killings were outlawed. She built safe houses for former sex workers. She didn't just talk about justice, she created it. But power never comes without challenge. In 532, Constantinople was rocked by the Nika Revolt, an uprising led by two rival chariot factions, the Blues and the Greens. At first, it was about politics, but soon it became a riot of fire and blood. The city burned. The crowd screamed for Justinian's abdication. Fearing for their lives, Justinian and his court prepared to flee. But Theodora stood her ground, and she said, "Royal purple makes the noblest shroud." In other words, she would rather die an empress than live in shame. Her courage inspired the emperor to fight. Generals stormed the hippodrome. Over 30,000 rebels were killed. The rebellion was crushed. Thanks to Theodora, the throne was saved. Years later, Justinian fell ill with the plague. For weeks he lay bedridden, and Theodora ruled alone. When she died in 548, at around 48 years old, the empire mourned the loss of a powerful, complex, and unforgettable woman. Justinian never forgot her. He continued the reforms they started together. He honored the promise he made to protect the monophysite church she loved. Theodora's story is not one of fairy tales. It is a story of survival, of transformation, of courage in the face of shame, and strength in the face of power. She was a dancer, an outcast, a rebel, a queen. She was Theodora, and she changed history.